Hey, what's going on, guys? And today we're going to be working on a 2007 Honda Odyssey. We're going to be doing a timing belt water pump kit. This vehicle has roughly about 176,000 miles. And I'm not sure, customer is not sure whether or not the timing belt has been done. By the looks of it, glancing at the belt, glancing at the serpentine belt, and looking at the tensioner that's actually starting to leak or is leaking, as you're going to see later on in the video when we do get to the tensioner. You can see that the hydraulic fluid from the tensioner is leaking. It looks like it hasn't been done anytime soon, or this might even be the original timing belt kit, timing belt parts. So we're gonna go ahead and service the timing belt. I'm gonna go through step by step, showing you how to do the timing belt and water pump service. So we're gonna start off by taking off the radiator cap. Caution. You want to make sure that the antifreeze or the system is not pressurized with hot fluid. So be careful when you're taking that cap off if the vehicle has been running. So we're gonna take off that cap. I'm gonna show you the drain port for the radiator. I'm not going to drain the radiator fluid, but I do recommend doing that if the vehicle coolant hasn't been kept up to service. I definitely recommend draining out the whole coolant and putting fresh new antifreeze in there. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna take off the timing belt cover. We're gonna release this AC line out of the way by this bracket. We're gonna remove just kind of put aside the power steering reservoir. We're gonna take off the PCM cover as well as take off the PCM. We're gonna take off the engine motor mount and maybe the serpentine belt. And that'll be probably one of the stopping points. And then we'll go further, right? So let's get into it. All right, so underneath the vehicle, just want to show you the location of the radiator coolant drain. That's your little plastic twist valve. You want to turn that counterclockwise to unloosen it, and then the fluid will start to drain out of that hole that's pretty much underneath, adjacent. I'm trying to point it out without losing the light. All right, so it's going to start to drain out right out of here. All right, so you want to have a catch pan. You want to have some kind of a catch pan to catch the fluid while it's draining out. All right. All right, almost forgot to mention, we are gonna go ahead and disconnect the negative battery. Some techs don't do this. And honestly, I have a habit of doing, I don't know, maybe 4 dozen timing belts and not disconnecting the negative battery. I don't recommend doing it that way, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that this time for demonstration purposes. But disconnect the negative battery just to be on the safe side. So you don't have any damages, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, so we just took out the PCM. PCM is located right here. There's about three 10mm bolts that secure the PCM. You got as well as 3 plugs that we took out for the PCM. You got a couple of wire harnesses you have to get out the way in order to get one of the 10mm bolts. And now we're gonna take off the engine motor mount located right here. We're gonna take off the engine motor mount, and then we're gonna take off the drive belt, and then we're gonna take off the power steering pump. Power steering pump has about 2 or 3 12mm. There's one right here. There is one located underneath. I can't really access and see right now, There's about 2 or 3 12 millimeters, and there's also a 10 mil that's holding the bracket for the power steering line. So once we get that undone, we're gonna swing the power steering pump onto the top of the motor, all right? So the motor mounts out. This is a really cool tool that I have. Not the ratchet. The ratchet is cool, but this is a very flat, low profile adapter that goes from a quarter to 3/8, and I also have another one that goes from 3/8 to a 1/2 inch. I think I got it at Harbor Freight or one of those local tool stores, but it's a really cool tool to have, man. All right, so now what you want to do is get the power steering pump, lift it up a little bit higher than the motor. This is just the way I do it. You don't have to do it this way, but I find it very easy and convenient to do it this way. Swing it up past, just set it on top of the motor, out the way, and it just gives you a lot of room and access for a lot that's going on and a lot of things that you have to do here, right? For instance, you got to get to this 10 millimeter bolt eventually. Don't know if you can see that. So there's a 10 millimeter bolt that you have to get to right here eventually. So that's one of the main reasons why you need this power steering pump out the way. Also, you have bolts that go to the timing belt top covers that are just not that simple to access with that power steering pump out the way. So you kind of need that out the way. Some would just take it off and kind of leave it hanging here, and it's in the way of doing other things. So I like to swing it up out the way. It's just much more easier, right? So you do that by, again, taking off the two 12 millimeter bolts that are at the power steering pump. You got a 10 mil that's holding this bracket right here, right? So you take that off, and then you have good access, right? So moving along. All right, so next step we're gonna take, I've got the vehicle jacked up. So you wanna get the vehicle jacked up, not too high, because if you get it too high, it's just hard to work over the fender and over the front of the vehicle to get access here. So don't lift it up too high, but just lift it up enough where the wheels clear the ground. See, I got the wheel clearing the ground by just pretty much 1 inch. So take off the wheel. We're gonna take off this wheel cover here. And we're gonna kind of take off the wheel cover. We're gonna peel it back out of the way. So taking off all of the necessary bolts, all of the necessary clips out of the way for this fender cover. Not the fender cover out completely, but just enough so we can swing it out the way. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. So once you get the wheel off, the fender cover out the way, you're gonna gain access, better access to get to this, to multiple parts actually here, not just for this part. But the next step after that, we're gonna be taking off this serpentine belt pulley right here. We're gonna take this pulley off. There's a 17 mil. Let's see if I can get better view. All right, camera focusing. So there's camera's kind of, all right. So 17 mil right here, and then a little bit below that is a 12 millimeter bolt. Once we get that undone, that whole assembly comes off, and that is gonna give us better access to this timing belt cover that's right here. Even though you have access to the bolts all along here, this tensioner is covering a bolt that's hidden right here behind the mount, right behind this tensioner pulley assembly. So we get the tensioner pulley assembly out, and then we're going to take off the two covers, and then we're going to break free the harmonic balancer, the crankshaft pulley bolt, and then we're gonna break the bolt loose, and then we're gonna set the vehicle at timing, which is very, very crucial, right? And we'll get to that in a little bit more details just shortly. All right, that's pretty much how you want to get it as far as access. Get the fender cover not all the way out, but just lift up and out the way so you have good access to get to the rest of the components you got to get to. All right. Like I said, moving on to the next step, we're going to break free this 19 millimeter crankshaft pulley or harmonic balancer bolt. We're going to break that free. We're not going to take it out all the way. We're just going to break it back. We're going to break it free. We're going to run it back in kind of like by hand after it's broken loose. This is the 12 mil, or it kind of looks a little bigger, probably a 14 millimeter for that pulley. So 14 millimeter bolt maybe right here, and there's also 17 millimeter. Once you get that out, you get the pulley out. So we're gonna do that. Then we're gonna take off the two covers for the two top covers for the timing belt, and then we're gonna set the time. All right, let's get into that now. All right, so I broke free the bolt. I don't know if you caught that, but I used a special tool, our harmonic balancer tool. I bought this a Mako brand bought tool. You can also find it online on eBay or Amazon. Costs about somewhere between 20 to 30 bucks. Sometimes these bolts are frozen in there, especially if it's never been removed before after 10, 12 years. And then it's just hard to get out if you don't have an air gun or an impact gun that's strong enough. This harmonic balancer socket, harmonic balancer bolt socket would do the trick, all right? So if you need to get that, you can get that online. You may be able to find that at the local stores like O'Reilly's or AutoZone. Maybe call them up and see if they can order it for you, all right? So we got that loose, and I didn't run it in by hand. I kind of ran it in with the gun, just a very, very low speed, but I got it back in there snug. And the reason why you just want to break it loose before you set the time, because if we set the time before we break that loose, and then we go ahead and break that loose, you're most likely going to lose time again, very simply because the bolt's tight in there, right? While this thing is turning and torquing, you have the potential to turn this crank slightly and lose time, right? So now that we have it broke free, I can pretty much take that out by hand if I need to, right? So we want it like that prior to setting time. So we're going to go ahead and take off the two top covers. All right, guys, so we got the tensioner assembly that was a little bit lower, a little bit below the right cover, timing belt cover. We got that tensioner pulley off. We got the upper right cover off. We got the upper left cover off. We got access now. So now what we're gonna do is set the timing. We're gonna set the timing for this, for the timing belt before removing anything else, right? Very crucial. If you don't set the timing prior, you could have serious problems later on with you know, having timing off, or trying to set the timing while you have the components off. It's gonna be a mess, right? So you definitely have to set the timing before you remove the timing belt, and before essentially you want to remove anything else. Just set the timing, right? All right, guys, so got the timing belt set. I've got the timing set on the timing belt. I'm going to try to show you guys the 3 essential markings. So right now we've got a top view of the crank pulley, and if you look at the crank pulley from the top view, there's an arrow that's pretty visible, right? Let me see if I can come from the bottom to show you guys. All right, so there's an arrow on the timing belt cover right here. This is the arrow. You want to make sure this line lines up with the white mark, right? So you got a white mark right there on the crank pulley. You got a red mark that's after it. That's already, so you want to line this arrow up with the white mark. It may not look completely aligned for you from the angle of the camera because I am filming this at an angle, but this is pretty much aligned, right? So once you get that crank pulley mark lined up, the next component or the next marking is going to be right at the right side top of the cam. Let me try to focus in a little bit. All right, so you got the timing, the back plate of the timing belt cover, and you got the mark right there, and then you have the mark notch right there, which is pretty much lines up with the number 1 marking, because you have numbers that are within this cam sprocket pulley, right? So that's the top mark right there, that's lined up, and you can see that's pretty much dead on. And then you're gonna see the other mark on the left side, right? So that's, we're looking at the right side. So if you go to the left side, cam pulley, the marking for this one, again, kind of hard to point out with this camera. Never done this before with a camera. So, all right, so you can see the backing plate marking right there, and then you can see the pulley marking right there. And I know, again, they don't look like they're exactly lined up, but because of my angle, it looks like this. But when I come very as center as I can to look at it, they're lined up. So pretty much those are the markings. Like I said, if you need additional help, try to find a forum online by Googling, or just try to find some images or pictures, or someone who is just concentrating and showing you those details on YouTube, right? So we're gonna move right along. Now that we have the timing set on the belt, we're gonna go ahead and we're going to remove the crank pulley. We're gonna remove the bolt crank pulley, and then we're gonna remove the lower cover, and then we're gonna remove this center. It's like a center bracket right here. There's 3 14 millimeter bolts that are holding this in. And this one, once we get that out, then we're gonna have access to the belt, as well as the pulley. We're gonna release the 2 10s on the pulley, the tensioner pulley for the belt. We're gonna take the belt off, and then we're gonna take off the water pump, and we'll be pretty much at the halfway mark of this service. All right, so let's get into it. All right, give you a better look at the tensioner. From the top view, you can definitely see the hydraulic fluid in the tensioner has been leaking out. And this sometimes can cause just complete premature failure at the tensioner. I've seen these tensioners leak out the hydraulic fluid and start to cause a knocking noise. Almost sounds like a rod knock. So if you have one of these timing belts causing some kind of knocking noise, you suspect it might be at the tensioner, try to get some stethoscopes or some kind of tool on the tensioner to see and narrow down the noise and see if it could be caused by the tensioner. I have seen these make noise, but yeah, this thing was getting ready to go. All right, so we got all the bolts out of the water pump. At this point, I'm gonna prior on the water pump a little bit from the bottom, right here on the lip a little bit, just to crack it free a little bit so the coolant can drip out. So you're gonna get it. It's gonna be very messy doing it this way, especially if you didn't drain out the coolant from the radiator. You're gonna have the system pretty much full of coolant. And if you drained it out from the radiator, you won't have as much coolant. that is going to be coming out of there. So just to keep that in mind, make sure you have a catch pan if you're going to do it this way, all right? All right, so I'm just gonna let this fluid seep out, this coolant sleep out until it starts to slow down. Then I'll take the water pump completely off. We're gonna examine the surface a little bit. We might have to clean the surface off a little bit. Any possible rust that's on the mating surface of the water pump, and then we're gonna start going back in with the new water pump and everything else in reverse order, right? All right, so actually while that coolant's dripping out from the water pump, I just got a quick pro tip for you guys. This is something I learned early on when I was doing water pumps and bigger services like this. Just a little pro tip. It might help you guys. It may not, I'm not sure. So if you're good at memorizing what steps to take, you don't need this pro tip. But if you're not good at memorizing exactly what steps you took, then you may want to take advantage of this. What I did was line up the parts in order in which I took them off. This was the very last part I took off prior to the water pump, right? And then I took off this, and then I took off the lower cover. Then I took off this tensioner pulley assembly. Then I took off the mount and the PCM. If you have these parts just scattered everywhere, and let's say, for instance, you put on this pulley before you put on this cover, which is possible, you're gonna have to take this pulley off just to get that cover on, all right? Because this pulley goes on top of the cover, right? And as well as this, vice versa. So just a little pro tip to, if you wanna just prevent yourself to having to do double work, line the parts up in order in which you took them off, and then you can put them back in pick them back up in that order, and you don't have to worry about doing double work, all right? Just a little pro tip. Hopefully that's a helpful tip. All right, so we're just gonna wait for that water pump to drain out. We're gonna clean the surface, and then we're gonna start going back in with the new parts, all right? All right, so got the belt on. Got it nice and tight all on the right side, going all the way up to the right side cam, coming around, water pump, left side cam, and we got all the slack on the left side. We're just gonna double check the marks before we put the tensioner and pull the pin of the tensioner, and complete the timing portion of it. So we're just gonna double check the marks. So the way to double check the marks on the crank while the pulley's off, you have a you've got a notch and arrows. It's kind of hard to see. I don't have too much light. Just try to bear with me. So there's an arrow right here that has to line up with the arrow right there at the back of the cover. So there's an arrow right there, right there by my thumb, and there's an arrow here. And if I'm in the middle of it, you can see that they line up, right? So they line up pretty good. So that lines up. And then you want to double check to see. You want to double check to see that it lines up also at the cam, right side cam. There's a line right there. There's a notch right there that lines up with that notch. And on the left side as well. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll try to see if I can give you a little glance at that. All right, camera's trying to focus. All right, so there's a notch right there, and the notch is being covered by, let me see, the wiring harness. So you move the wiring harness out the way. All right, right there. So you see the two notches right there. right? One right there and one right there. They line up. So that's how you make sure the timing is set. So now we're gonna put the tensioner on, the new tensioner, mount it on there, and we're gonna pull the pin to lock in the timing. Let's get to that now. All right, so we got the tensioner mounted and in place. So you can see it has a grenade pin on it that you can actually put your finger through and pull. It's not that easy to pull. It's not easy to pull when it's under pressure. So right now it's under pressure because it's sitting on the swinging, rotating tensioner right here. So the best way to get it out is to actually put some, I'll pull it out a little bit by hand. And then the best way to pull it out is use some diagonal cutters like this. Get it locked in at a good spot. Don't squeeze the handle and cut the pin, but you just want to find a place to pry on. I usually go maybe right here, pry on that pulley a little bit, and just swing it up to pull it out. And that's it, right? So we got the pin pulled. That's what the pin looks like when it's out, right? So now you have the belt locked in place, tension good on the right, at the top, right top, left side locked in completely. So now we're gonna put the bracket, that middle bracket that goes underneath the cover. We're gonna put the cover on, and then we're gonna put serpentine belt tensioner on, and then we're gonna start putting up the top covers, the left side and right side, all right? All right, so we got the both top right and left covers installed. And we got the drive belt tensioner slash drive belt tensioner installed as well. And so now the next step, we're going to put on the crankshaft pulley. And then we're going to probably put on the power steering pump, and then put on the drive belt. It's a little bit easier to put the drive belt on at that point versus, put it on at the end. So let's see how that works out. So just a little pro tip. I don't know if you can actually plug these things in on the wrong side. Maybe, maybe not, but they are shape coded. So there's a square shape over here, there's a triangular shape over here, and there's a circle shape over here. And then you can match them up with the shapes that are on the white part of the connector. So there's a square there, matches up with the square. There is a circle here, matches up with the circle. And on the last one, there is a triangle shape right here. Matches up with this triangle right here. So, kind of dummy proof, man. They made that really dummy proof, so you really can't mess it up. I'm not even gonna, I was attempting to see if it'll go in, but it looks like it might go in. I didn't want to possibly bend any pins that might have been, kind of different. So I didn't take a chance. But it's really hard to mess that up if you just pay attention just a little bit, right? So you got some wire harnesses we got to get in. Plug those back in, or connect those back up, rather. Almost there. All right, guys, we're finally here. So the last thing we did, we put the cover on. We got the fender cover liner back in. We got the wheel on. We got the vehicle back on the ground. We got the negative battery back connected. We're starting to top off the coolant here. And pretty much we're down to the moment of truth. I mean, there's nothing like doing a job, maybe a couple of hours or so, hour and a half, or even more. Doing a job 5, 6, 8 hours, and you don't know that everything is okay until you start it up. Scary feeling when you've done it maybe the first couple of times, but after you've done it, maybe 3 or 4 dozen times like me, it's not a big deal. So we're gonna start it up right now. I'll give you a heads up. You are gonna hear a noise that was there present. There's gonna be a slight whining sound during the startup and a little bit after the startup. I'm pretty sure that problem is gonna be a starter, which I need to replace. But we'll see how it starts up after the T-belt has been completed. That ain't good. Uh-oh, what's going on? All right, no need to panic, no need to panic. That's just a very low powered battery. So I gotta put some jumper cables on there, and hopefully we should be able to get it started. Say a prayer or two, and let's start it up and see what happens. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good, sounds good. I think we did it. I think we did it, guys. So, all right, it starts up really good. I don't know if you heard that whine sound. So that whining noise, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a starter. I'm probably gonna tackle that in another video. But so we got the coolant in there, we got it bubbling. You pretty much wanna let this sit until the bubbling slows down. The bubbling is gonna keep on going and until the vehicle gets up to operating temperature. And then when the bubbling slows down, you can pretty much cap it off, shut the vehicle off, cap it off, maybe top off the actual coolant reservoir, which is right here actually, kind of hidden behind. So the coolant reservoir, you can top that off as well. And that's it, guys. That is how you that's how you do a timing belt water pump kit with the serpentine belt. I hope you guys caught value in this. This job actually took me maybe, if I take out the time that I stopped the camera and took a little bit of a break, it probably took me about 3 hours because of setting up the camera. I've never done that before. Usually this job would take me about 2 hours, right? Which is not too bad. But it took me another extra hour setting up the camera so that I can get you guys a full insight of what it looks like to do a timing belt water pump kit on 2006 Honda Odyssey or equivalent. Now this is equivalent to the Honda Pilots. This is equivalent to the Ridgelines, equivalent to even the 3.6 and the 3.7 Acuras. So it's pretty much all identical. I'm gonna leave that down in the descriptions. I hope you guys caught some benefit from this, because it was a little bit of a task to try to get this done and get it on film. You have any questions about any of the tools, any of the procedures, any of the parts, don't forget to leave them down in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Peace. I'll see you guys in another one.